Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a day. Alex has spent the past 3 hours in a hospital room with a baby, and I got told to go.
Not the past 3 hours. It was just like 2 o'clock. We were out of there in half an hour. But I've been, other than making dinner, I've been outside for 2 hours cutting wood, being big strong man.
It's all right. I got told to screw off halfway through my 4-hour drive to a conference, and
This
then
is true.
it's been a day. It's been a day. But welcome everybody to Life to Complete Story. I am Tyler, joined by my lovely co-host, Alex. We've been having a great time ranting for the past 5 minutes.
Yeah, literally just came up here and it's gonna be one of them days.
But we are your hosts for Life the Complete Story. Before we get started, make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us a lot. Leave a comment, subscribe wherever you watch us. Send us an email at lifecompletestory@gmail.com for any questions, comments, concerns that you have about the show. And follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Life Complete Story for amazing species and clips from the episodes. With that being said, we'll get into our first little bit, like we always do, our nature in the news. And this is a good one that I found from Saturday, the 14th. And I actually saw a post on Instagram about this earlier today.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, it's connecting dots. So, some scientists found that in France, pets are actually helping spread a invasive flatworm. There's a lot of invasive invertebrates, typically hammerhead worms, ribbon worms, flatworms, because they're just so unkillable, it feels like.
Yeah, literally, I think the only way to kill them is maybe drown them in
drown them and burn them.
Alcohol. Yeah. And even then, I'm sure there's one that's resistant to alcohol. You'd have to literally burn them.
So this was published in Peer J, which I'm assuming is just a journal. I don't really know off the top of my head what it is.
It says it's a journal. I don't know where specifically from.
But this is invasive flatworm in France. The Institute of Systematics, Evolution and Biodiversity, ISYEB, worked with a collaborator from James Cook University in Australia, and they found that household pets are playing a role in the movement of these species from place to place. So typically they move through plants, whether it's human gardening or import and export of ornamentals and things like that. So now we're seeing that citizen science, which is a big thing that I believe both Alex and I are big advocates of citizen science.
Big time.
Citizen science is whenever you as an individual, no scientific background, go out, maybe do pollinator counts in your garden or whatever to see how healthy the ecosystem is around you. So what we're seeing is that through long-term data, there's a pathway of spread where these flatworms were found clinging to dog and cat fur, that instead of carrying by plants, it's carrying by these animals now. But there's 10 invasive flatworms in France, but only the Caenoplana variegata, that's the species, is known to have this technique.
Technique of being extra snotty.
Yeah, it's an extra sticky mucus related to its diet as a predator of arthropods. So somewhere in the breakdown of the chitin, maybe, or something, it produces a sticky membrane, or the sticky membrane.
It's probably just because arthropods typically can move pretty well, so they got to really gum them up.
That checks out too. That's why.
Yeah, think amber from tree sap. It'd be primarily from coniferous trees because they have especially sticky sap.
So it says because pets travel a substantial difference each year, whether walking the dog or whatever. This is probably a meaningful contribution to the worldwide spread of these certain flatworms that have that sticky mucus. And that's all the article really. We pretty much covered the entire article there.
Yeah, it's shorter. I think it's kind of just a summary article, but pretty neat.
Yep. So we'll move on into our lesson. We are continuing our talks through Neobatrachia, our modern frogs. We covered 3 groups last week. We're going to cover another 3 families today, and then we'll get on with it. Our first group of the day, Alex, is Brachycephalidae. You want to cover them real quick?
Yeah, give me half a sec. I already got a picture locked and loaded. Boom. So Brachycephalidae, these are confined to East and South Brazil, as well as northern Argentina. There are 2 externally different genera, so the 2 genera within this, they both look pretty different, but they're fairly closely related, defined by molecular characteristics as well as a few similar anatomical features. They have direct development, so they hatch as miniature adults. Actually, skip that tadpole phase. Then there are two genera. One is Brachycephalus. The saddleback toads include pumpkin toadlets and flea toads. I believe I have a pumpkin toadlet pulled up.
Of some variety, yeah.
Of some variety, yes. Some pumpkin toadlets are toxic with bright colors to show that off. We've talked about the aposematic coloration before. They're some of the smallest frogs in the world, only reaching about 1 centimeter. So like tippy, like teeny tiny, like tip of your finger. You could hold one, just little guy. They live in rainforests ranging from sea level to about 1,900 meters, with most restricted to the cloud forests. That area. And the other genus is Isconema.
Yeah.
There is really nothing about these guys.
The only real thing that I found is just the coloration is a lot more drab in comparison. So the Brachycephalus,
Okay.
that other genus is, bright orange like a pumpkin toadlet.
Yes.
Whereas Isocnemia, they're more of like a leaf, like a dead leaf litter color. That brown that we've talked of with a lot of other frogs. But our next group is going to be...
Yes, I'm trying to find a great picture. And I think
Breviceptidae. We've talked, maybe not a lot about these guys. I know I've published on our Instagram page a amazing species for a member once, I think, maybe twice.
Maybe. It's all right.
For the rain frogs, Breviceptidae.
Grumpy boys.
Yeah. Stout, thick-bodied, little stubby legs.
Stout is a great way to put it.
There's the rain frogs. They're found in East and South Africa. And there's about 38 species in the 5 genera. They're rarely seen, as most of the time is spent in soil or leaf litter. They have a strong sexual dimorphism, with females being much larger than the males. They also exhibit a direct development, as I said, as skipping that tadpole stage, going straight to a froglet. Amplexus is not possible due to the size difference. Amplexus is like the mounting of a male frog on a female frog for internal fertilization. Can't do that. Too much of a size difference. But the males do kind of glue themselves using excretions from the Holocene glands to stick to the female. And some members do exhibit brood care, but as a whole for this group, it's relatively under-researched. So the female lay the eggs, and either parent will stick around until the eggs hatch and tadpoles. From there, they'll be free living. And our first genus is Bale breviceps. These are the Bale Mountain tree frogs. They are native to the Bale Mountains of Ethiopia. I believe it's a single species. They live in tree heath woodlands, which is a specific tree, like a monoculture forest there, and is threatened by habitat loss caused by cattle grazing, firewood collection, and settlement development. They have that stout body with a smooth ventral side, so the underside is smooth, and they have that thick pitted dorsal side. As you can kind of see in the image, the pits or warts on the back end there. They have short, muscular legs, and the males lack vocal sacs, and the females lack an auditory apparatus. So that's a weird evolutionary trait.
The males don't make noise.
The males can't talk. Yeah, the males can't make noise, and the females can't listen anyway.
Interesting. I wonder which one came first. I'm guessing the female's not listening. I
know
don't
that
say
sounds
it.
about that's.
Don't say it.
I can't get in trouble, but he can.
Shush. What's our next genus?
Our next genus is Breviceps. These are the rain frogs, or the short-headed frogs. They are also stout-bodied in appearance with short limbs and a small,
if you couldn't
flat
tell,
snout.
I'm having a great time with these pictures.
They live in arid and semi-arid climates, so more of a desert frog. They spend most of the year underground, and they walk rather than hop. Due to their short limbs and their stout bodies, it's kind of hard for them to get.
If you ever find a video of them, they're great, especially when someone disturbs them, because they scream, and it's hilarious.
They often emerge after rain to feed on small arthropods, and they also reproduce during the rainy season. Our next group is going to be Caulina. These are the warty frogs found in Tanzania and Kenya. Well, they were originally a monotypic genus before 8 new critically endangered species were found in the last 20 years. So between 2000 and 2010, I believe there were 8 new species found, maybe even more after that. Don't quote me. Next, we have Probreviceps. These guys are known as forest frogs, forest rain frogs, big-fingered frogs, or the primitive rain frogs. They are burrowing frogs with short limbs. They use their hind legs to burrow, as most burrowing frogs do. They have like those more calcareous nodes on their hind legs to dig. They also exhibit direct development, males reaching up to about 2 inches, while females can reach a little bit over 2.5 inches. Males have a larger tympany than the females, so the ear, we've talked about last week, the ear, or again, it's not quite a true ear, it's just like a auditory.
It's basically
receptor.
just an eardrum.
Yeah. They do not possess discs on their fingers or toes, which means they are non-arboreal. They have no sticky discs. And identification is based on male calls, features of toes, and distribution. Our final genus for this group is going to be Spalifrine. This is a monotypic genera. I'm assuming Alex couldn't find a picture.
Could not. I tried. Kept getting fish and other weird stuff.
They are found in Tanzania and possibly Malawi, and their habitat includes tropical and subtropical lowland and mountain forests, as well as moist savannas. And that'll bring us into our final group for today, Alex. What are we talking about?
We are talking about the glass frogs. These guys are cool, and if you're watching the video, you'll see why they're called glass frogs, or Centrolenidae. So they are native to Central America and Colombia. The dorsal side is primarily a very lime green. They are a pretty arboreal group of frogs, so the green makes them look like leaves. Some of the members have a transparent, or at least relatively translucent, skin on the ventral side, so the stomach side. Thus, in the picture, you can see the frog's heart, and I think it's aorta.
And
so
everything else.
You can see a bunch of its organs, yes. So because of that, I said the visceral organs are visible through the skin, which is what gives them their name, like looking through glass. As I said, they are an arboreal species, mostly living in trees, feeding on small insects. And that transparency actually helps them blend in while they are sleeping, because when they close their eyes, typically frogs, they actually pull their eyes in. It's kind of weird. But when they do that, they lay very, very flat. You can see they're pretty flat dorsoventrally, and they just look like they're part of the leaf.
Something I forgot to include in our notes is that when they are in a dormant state, so sleeping, all their blood goes into their liver. It goes into their organs. It leaves the vessels.
Interesting.
That's what I read. Don't.
Interesting. I believe you. That's interesting. But they are also generally pretty small, ranging about 1 to 3 inches. They do have expanded digits, so expanded, especially on their hands. It's very wide. You can see their fingers are actually almost more in like a plus sign shape rather than the typical hand shape. So it makes them very good climbers. The pairs will mate on leaves, and their eggs are laid. From there, typically the leaf falls, most likely during heavy rain. And then those eggs will then hatch into tadpoles and then metamorphose, hopefully in puddles on the ground. Their main threats are habitat loss and frog flies. So these are flies that they lay eggs in the frog's eggs, and then the maggots hatch and feed on the embryos of the frogs.
Yeah, that's partially because they're just anamniotes. So since they don't have the shell, it's just a ball of embryo, pretty much.
Yeah, and goo.
Yeah, more susceptible to threats like that.
Yeah, so that's a very scientific term, goo. It's like jelly.
We never claimed to be scientists.
Not good ones, anyway. So our genus within this family, starting with Centraline, these are different in the sense that the adult males will have humeral spines. So on the upper bone in the arm, they'll have like these little spikes that come out of the humerus. These are known as the giant glass frogs. So I'm guessing these are the largest. The members of this genus are the largest among the glass frogs.
Which is still not big.
It's still not big, but bigger. Our next genus is Chimerella. It's a very small genus. These are found on the slopes of the Andes in Ecuador and Peru and possibly up into Colombia. Next genus is Cochranella, or the Cochrane frogs. These lack the humeral spines, and they're different because their digestive tract is notably white when you look at on their front side. And they have a lobed liver that is covered in a peritoneum. So it's actually covered in like another layer of skin, I believe, is what that means. So that's pretty neat. The fact that they actually have a lobed liver as opposed to just it being one singular organ. Bit more of a more advanced feature. You don't really see that in less advanced organisms like amphibians. Next genus, Espidorana. These are found in Central America and then down into South America. These actually possess vomerine teeth and a quadrado-jugal bone, which articulates with the maxilla. So the vomerine teeth remind me, they're the teeth that are just kind of like very low, like it's more like little, like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. They're kind of like tiny little prong teeth that they have. They're not like flat like when we think of normal teeth in mammals.
You're getting there. Yep.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing that quadrado-jugal bone is just another bone within the jaw that helps them open their mouth wider.
Yep.
Look at me.
You don't need me. You don't need me here. As he chokes.
Pardon me. Apologies. Our next genus is Nymphargus. This is a newer genus. It was just established just
I could be showing
in 2007. Distributed throughout the Andes. They lack the webbing among the outer fingers. Sorry. As I said, they lack the webbing on the outer fingers, and they also lack the humeral spine. So you can see there they have very, very long, spindly fingers, and the head is often a darker green than the body, and yellow and black spots are along the body. This one is not a good example of that.
No, very poor example.
Yes, but the ones that are green, the head is typically darker. Our next genus is Rulliarna. It's a small genus found throughout the Andes, moderate to extensive webbing between the fingers. Not a whole lot more on this genus. I'll let Tyler pull up a picture before I move on to the next.
He's zooming over there.
I am zooming through this today.
We are not as good at sharing pictures as Alex is either. He's typically the go-to.
I've got it down to a science.
Yeah,
there we go. You can see their fingers are much more webbed especially compared to the last genus. Next is Sacatamia. These are native to Central America and northern South America at altitudes below 1,500 meters, which is typically, I guess, in a tropical region, that's not as big of a deal. You'll see frogs at higher elevations because of those cloud forests. Besides distribution, no other characteristics could really distinctly place them as a member in Sacatamia or Rulliarna.
Yeah, they're almost like identical in terms of everything, except for like distribution and a couple like genetic, what you calls them. Yep. You know what I mean.
Yeah, specific like genetic traits or genetic markers within the genome.
You got it.
Yeah.
You don't.
Just a few more. Next genus is Teratohyla. This is a small genus formerly placed in Centronella and Cochranella before being resurrected into its own genus in 2009. These are found in the lowlands of South and Central America. These are very bright green. I'm guessing the picture is probably not, but you can
also probably
very bright flash on the picture. But you can, this is a good picture. You can see how they would very, very easily blend into that leaf. I mean, if that frog curled its legs in and laid flat and closed its eyes, you could walk right past it without even realizing that was a frog on that leaf. So it's a good picture to show that. Next genus is Vitiorana. These are found from Brazil to Colombia and throughout the Guianas. Similar to the other glass frogs, they actually have green bones. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
A lavender dorsal, I'm guessing dorsal line, or like lavender pigmentation in the dorsal side of the body, and then the white pigmentation along the sides and the bottom. Pretty neat. Our second to last genus is Celciella. These are endemic to Venezuela, and this genus was only established in 2009 as well. There's only 2 members in this genus, so pretty small.
I have no picture.
Okay. And then lastly, we have Hylonobatrachium. This is a very wide distributed group all the way up north into Mexico and then south to Argentina, covering pretty much everything in between. They have a very bulbous liver covered in white pigment, and the bones in the living animals are white. So I'm guessing
So normal.
So yeah, more normal. I'm sure in some ways that's why they tend to tuck their legs underneath of them when they're sleeping. Laying flat.
I think the green bones in the other members is to help with camouflage.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if you just see a whole bunch of white bones on the ventral side, it's gonna give you away from the bottom.
Yeah, but usually they're laying flat on a leaf like this, so
but
you don't see that.
Sometimes the sun pokes through and you see the frog anyway. Yeah.
That's true if it's a thinner leaf. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that will do it for our lesson for today. A handful of pretty neat groups. Kind of fun. So, Tyler, I'll let you take us right into our amazing species.
Yeah. It's a cool one. It's a rain frog.
Yeah.
It's Bilbo's rain frog with the scientific name Breviceps baginzi. See what they did there, Alex?
I see what they did there.
Alex is a nerd.
Have you looked in a mirror lately?
I have. I just don't want to give myself away. These guys are found in South Africa. A couple segmented spots, which I'm assuming are a couple national forests or something along those lines.
Like protected areas.
Yes. In about a lot, and the Mist Belt from Boston in the west of Melmoth, in the northeast, and yep, I can say that word. Combati to Point St. John's, with an area of occurrence of about 4,000 square kilometers and showing signs of continuing decline. I forgot to mention these guys are listed as near threatened on the IUCN Red List. They are found from elevations ranging from 25 meters to 1,400 meters, which is a pretty wide area in terms of elevation change for most of amphibians. It's a relatively uncommon species that occurs in congregations of about 20 to 30 individuals. No one site holds more than 50% of individuals, and the distances between subpopulations are considered to be too great for dispersal within one generation. The population is therefore considered to be severely fragmented.
That's not good.
No at all. They are under a couple threats, most notably like wood plantations for pulp and things like that, livestock farming, road construction, as well as forest fires, as well as invasive species, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's chytrid, but it's not exactly. It says unspecified species, so does not exactly. Wow. Alien plant infestation, as well as mismanagement of grasslands, inappropriate fire regimes, and overgrazing. Awesome. Not known to be any type of pet trade or food culinary uses. They do occur in a couple protected areas, the Combati and Salaka nature reserves. We're working towards interim conservation agreements with the landowners. Habitat protection is also a much needed requirement thing. And we need to do some more studies on taxonomy, population size, distribution, life history, and ecology. And that's all I have, Alex. I will kick it over to you for your most wanted. You kind
Yes,
of
sir.
switched it up again. We're kind of running out of invasive amphibians because there's not many of them.
No. So, our invasive species for this week is a plant. It is known as Eonymus alatus, or the burning bush, or the winged burning bush, Eonymus. There's a bunch of different names for it. It's a cool plant. It's a deciduous shrub that can get up to 20 feet tall. I've seen some get at least 8 to 10 feet tall. They're invasive in the eastern United States, primarily throughout the forests. They tend to have along the stems. It's kind of, yeah, it'd be the large bush right there, the green one.
Big green one. The green one. There's 5 of them, Alex.
The large green one right in the middle. So it looks like that throughout the spring and the summer. And then in the fall, when the leaves start to change color, they turn a very bright reddish purple color. It's very cool, very vibrant. So it was a very popular garden landscaping plant because of this, because of that very, very beautiful red color. You can kind of see it in the picture here on the younger stems. They actually have those they're called corky ridges. So they are ridges that come out, kind of a bit of a deterrent for grazing. They have very small greenish yellow flowers, kind of late spring, early summer, that lay almost flat to the leaves. And then they have a very small, kind of orangey berry that is the fruit. It has a very wide variety of habitats that it can. Yeah, that's a good picture for the color of the leaves and the little berries as well. So a lot of distribution, forest edges, old fields, roadsides, even in undisturbed forests on the understory. The fruit is very popular for birds and other smaller wildlife to eat, and then they disperse it. They can form pretty dense thickets, displacing native vegetation. It was native to northeastern Asia, fairly similar climate to the eastern United States, and it was introduced into North America in the 1860s as an ornamental. And it's still sold and planted as such, but I know at least in much of the eastern U.S. you cannot purchase or distribute it. It's found primarily east of the Mississippi, with the vast majority of it being the kind of northeast, through the Appalachian and Ohio Valley into the northeast is where the primary distribution can be found. I have a real good picture of how bright red it looks in the fall. So it's pretty striking. I won't even lie. There you go. That's what it looks like in the fall. And when you get a whole stand of them together, it's like a giant red wall. It looks beautiful, but it is an invasive species nonetheless. That is all I have for the burning bush.
I found another article recently while I was just scrolling the interwebs about, we've talked, but it's invasive species, so it kind of fits. The quagga mussel.
Yeah.
Nasty thing. It was discovered in Northern Ireland, I think over the weekend. Nope.
That ain't
late
good.
last year.
Late last year.
Yeah, in the lower Loch Earn of Northern Ireland. So they're trying their best to eradicate it, but that's a hard one.
That is a tough one to deal with.
Because they just grow and reproduce and grow and reproduce. But I guess Alex is throwing it over to me for from the vault for the week.
Indeed.
Which is Rhinella loba. So we're opening the vault, but only a peek, like only a crack today. These guys were found in the Pliocene, which is about 3.5 million years ago. So in the grand scheme of things, not a long time compared to some of the other things I've talked about from the vault. It is closely related to the present-day Argentine toad, which is Rhinella arenarum, which is still living, and represents today the only diagnosable extinct true toad species from South America. So this is the only extinct true toad from South America. It takes its name from Punta Loberia, which is a locality in Argentina, close to Buenos Aires, and it is a rather large toad with a broad skull roof, typical of toads to have that like wider, flatter head compared to frogs. They have some heavy ornamentation from like tubercles and other types of warts and things like that on their heads, and some very poorly inclined like crests at like the ridge of their snout, you can kind of see in the picture. And these pictures are these features also occur in the Argentine toad, which I'm sure we'll talk about next week. I think we're talking about true toads, if I did my math right. But there is a distinctly narrower skull roof within the Argentine toad. So, and if you were to see it in like a modern day, it would look like a very large Argentine toad, but with a broader head, similar to the Cururu toad, which is also known as like the Schneider's toad. That's all I have for that. Alex, I will throw it back to you for your ecology encyclopedia.
Yes, sir. So today's ecology encyclopedia is a good one for amphibians especially, and it is the ecotone. So an ecotone is basically just a transitional area between two distinct ecosystems. This first picture I pulled up, you can see that between a land and a water ecosystem, that kind of riverbank stream, like bank of a body of water, that it would be considered the ecotone. So you get, in this case, you get like those kind of marshland sort of things. Riparian zones is something that Tyler and I have dealt with a lot.
Talked about it a lot on the podcast.
Yeah, we've talked about it as well. They're basically buffers, like the buffer transition area between two ecosystems. And they play a pretty important role because there are plants that you find in these ecotones that you don't find as much specifically in either ecosystem. So like in this case, like that marshland next to an aquatic versus land ecosystem, you may find things like certain land plants that are very water tolerant, or certain aquatic plants that are very drought tolerant, things like
lilies.
Like lilies sometimes, yeah. Cattails is a big one that you find. Things like those more water tolerant plants, like trees, like the sycamore, the American sycamore, I know is very water tolerant. And it's there are a lot of species as well that actually just live mostly in this kind of transitional ecosystem, like a lot of amphibians, especially the more aquatic amphibians. They like to live like kind of near that stream bank. Aquatic reptiles like to live near those stream banks. That's where they find some shelter because of those plants. So they're not just kind of free swimming out in the water. You may have an easier time finding food in some of those cases. Or you get a mixture, like in this next picture is that is not the picture I want. This is the picture I want. It's a little blurry, but it's a good way. It's thing in North America, deer, you see a lot of time deer will feed in kind of more open field areas because there's a lot more food. You get some of the, like those bushes, clover, things like that really like to be in the sun. As opposed to the shade, but then they're in the wide open, so there's really no protection from predators or the elements. So then they go into the larger forests for more of that protection and everything, but there's not as much food. Well, within that ecotone, you'll kind of get that mixture. You get some of those larger trees and bushes, so they get a little more protection, and you start getting some of that food. And so they kind of like to hang out right there near that edge as much as they can. You don't usually see, especially in the eastern U.S. where you get more of these forests, you don't see things like deer get too far from a large wood edge without, unless they're kind of being pushed that direction. They typically like to stay fairly close within that, near that ecotone area, And this also kind of helps play into some of those areas of like secondary succession, where say if there's fire, that ecotone is going to be your first, is kind of that next level of succession. You can kind of see it go from like a mature forest, and then your grassland, and that in between is where you'll see like those small tree saplings, larger bushes, taller grasses, things like that. So it's something that is pretty easily is pretty usually looked over, just because it's like, oh, that's kind of just a border zone between the two distinct ecosystems, but it actually plays a pretty big role especially for a lot of the larger land dwelling animals, as well as those kind of like the amphibians that spend some of their time on land, some of the time in the water. They like to stay in that buffer zone because with the water, it's a way to escape in some cases. They stay near the water because amphibians need to keep their skin fairly moist most of the time, but there may not be as much food or much ready access to food. It kind of takes more work, while on land it's a little easier for them. Tyler, do you have anything to add?
Ecotones serve as a gradient as well. So as you go from one ecosystem to the next, that ecotone is a gradient, so it kind of slowly filters. So in the picture with the deer that Alex showed, as you go from the grassland area or the open field area to the forest, there's going to be less trees and then more trees until you get to that forest ecosystem. And similarly, in like the river system ecosystem, the riverside ecosystem, there's going to be more water tolerant plants the further up the bank you get, in a way. That's all I had. But that has come to the conclusion of our show. Once again, make sure to follow us on all our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Life Complete Story. Wherever you get your podcast at Life the Complete Story, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Helps the algorithm. We're really thankful for all of you. I look at our numbers about once a week, and they just keep growing and growing and growing. We're really thankful for all of you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you guys are all taking the time to listen to us babble about all this science that isn't always everyone's cup of tea, but I'm glad that you folks are all taking the time to learn along with us.
And I've been Tyler. That has been Alex. Alex, why don't you send us off?
Yes, sir. As we say at the end of every episode, keep on learning, learn something new. You'll never know what you find interesting. But again, I've been Alex, and that's been Tyler. And this has been another episode of Life the Complete Story. And we will see you again next time.